Have you ever stopped to wonder why, despite working so hard, despite being an honest and hardworking person, money always seems to slip through your fingers? Why do those you consider less deserving prosper while you struggle to make ends meet? I am Solomon, and during my journey I discovered something that changed everything. You haven't failed, you've been deceived. Since childhood, you've been told lies about money that became invisible chains around your wrists, preventing you from achieving the prosperity that should rightfully be yours. Today, at your age, you carry the weight of believing that money is dirty, that talking about it is ugly, that only the sweat of your brow can lead you to wealth. These lies didn't just steal your money. They stole your dignity, your peace, and your ability to protect those you love. But imagine for a moment what your life would be like if you discovered that everything you were taught was wrong. Imagine if you could look in the mirror and see not someone who failed financially, but someone who finally awakened to the truth about prosperity. Imagine the freedom of no longer feeling guilty for wanting more, for wanting security, for dreaming of an abundant life. In this message, I will reveal the 6 most destructive lies you've been told about getting rich. Lies that keep intelligent and hardworking people like you trapped in cycles of scarcity, while others, who know these truths, prosper in silence. This is not another motivational speech, it's an awakening. It's your chance to finally break the chains that bind you to financial mediocrity and take your place among those who understand how wealth really works. Every minute you live believing these lies is a minute stolen from the prosperity that could be yours. And if you're here reading this message, it's because something inside you already knows you deserve more. If you're ready for this transformation, if you're tired of living financially half alive, then follow along closely, because what you're about to discover isn't just information, it's liberation. Lie 1. Money is the root of all evil. Do you know that feeling? That tightness in your chest every time someone mentions money in your presence, as if you had committed a sin just by wanting a better life. As if the simple act of thinking about prosperity was a betrayal of the values you were taught since childhood. For years, you carried this silent guilt. You hid your dreams of having more, of living with dignity, of not having to count every penny before buying medicine. And when the opportunity to grow knocked at your door, you rejected it, not for lack of courage, but for fear of becoming a bad person. This is the first and most destructive lie you've been told, that money is the root of all evil. A phrase repeated in pulpits, kitchens, and conversation circles transformed into absolute truth, when in reality it's just a misinterpreted half-truth. Let me tell you something I discovered during my journey as the richest man in history. Money is like a magnifying glass. It doesn't create goodness or evil. It simply amplifies what already exists in a person's heart. It's like a river. It can nourish gardens and give life, or it can cause floods and destruction. Everything depends on who directs it and how they use it. Imagine for a moment a doctor. He possesses sharp scalpels, powerful medicines, instruments that can cause pain. Are these objects the root of evil? Of course not. In the right hands, they save lives. In the wrong hands, they can destroy them. The problem is never in the tool, but always in the heart of the one who wields it. I knew kings who possessed mountains of gold and used every coin to build hospitals, feed orphans, and protect widows. I also knew beggars who, upon receiving a single coin, used it to buy poison and destroy themselves. The difference wasn't in the amount they possessed, but in the integrity of their hearts. So tell me, why were you taught to fear what could be your greatest tool of transformation? Why were you made to believe that living with little is synonymous with purity, when the truth is that poverty steals dignity, limits choices, and forces dependence? Poverty is not noble. It is cruel. It prevents you from taking care of your health when you need to. It forces you to accept humiliations out of necessity. It steals your sleep with worries about tomorrow. And worst of all, it teaches you to call this prison virtue. You need to understand that prospering is not a sin, it's a responsibility. When you have resources, you can choose the best medical treatment, You can help your children without sacrificing yourself. You can sleep peacefully knowing there's something saved for emergencies. You can leave this world having left something of value for those you love. I'll teach you a secret that transformed my relationship with wealth. Every time money came into my hands, I asked 3 questions. How can I use this to serve? How can I use this to protect? How can I use this to multiply blessings? When you change the question from, how can I have more, to, how can I serve better? Money stops being your master and becomes your servant. It stops controlling your thoughts and starts amplifying your values. The truth no one told you is this: you can get rich while maintaining your integrity. You can prosper while being generous. You can accumulate resources while being humble. Money won't corrupt your heart if your heart is already aligned with purposes greater than yourself. So stop apologizing for wanting more. Stop feeling guilty for wanting to live better. Stop rejecting opportunities for fear of becoming a different person. If you're good without money, you'll be even better with it, because you'll have more power to do good. Growing older with this awareness is liberating. It means that every dollar that enters your life can be a new opportunity for positive impact. Every investment you make can be an act of faith in the future. Every saving can be a gift of love for your children and grandchildren. Money is not your enemy. It's waiting for you to recognize it as a tool of transformation, not as an object of worship. It's waiting for you to stop fearing it and start mastering it with wisdom and purpose. Because the truth is simple. Prospering with integrity is not just possible, it's necessary for you to live and die with the dignity you deserve. Lie 2. Talking about money is ugly. How many times have you changed the subject when someone started talking about money? How many times have you pretended not to hear when a child asked about retirement, or when a grandchild wanted to know how much something you were buying cost? You learned that talking about money is rude, that refined people don't discuss values, that only the greedy keep talking about finances. And so, for decades, you transformed your financial life into a forbidden territory, where even you yourself dare not enter frequently. But I need to tell you a truth that will hurt at first. This silence is slowly killing your dreams. Every conversation you avoid about money is a missed opportunity for protection, planning, and growth. It's like closing your eyes while driving, thinking that way you avoid accidents. The lie that talking about money is ugly created an entire generation of financially orphaned people. People who reached 50, 60, 70 years old without ever having an honest conversation about their finances, neither with themselves nor with those they love. Silence about money is not elegance. It's negligence. It's abandonment. It's leaving your family walking in the dark about something that affects every day of their lives. Think of this as a treasure map that you keep locked in a drawer. There's no point having the map if you never share it with those who need to find the treasure. There's no point knowing where the traps are if you don't warn those you love about the dangers on the path. I remember a merchant I knew in my days as king. He had a prosperous shop, a family that respected him, and enough savings to live well for many years. But he never talked about money with his wife. He thought it was only his responsibility. When he died suddenly, the widow discovered debts he kept secret, partnerships she was unaware of, and a complicated inheritance that took years to resolve. His silence didn't protect anyone. It only created chaos where there could have been order. The truth is that talking about money is an act of love. This is how you protect those you love from scams, because you teach them to recognize danger signs. This is how you prepare your children not to repeat your financial mistakes. This is how you ensure that your final years are ones of dignity, not dependence. When you break the silence and start talking about your finances, some magical things happen. First, you stop making decisions alone in the dark. You start getting help, advice, different perspectives. Second, you organize your own thoughts, because it's impossible to explain something to someone without first understanding it yourself. Third, you create transparency that drives away opportunists and attracts people who truly want your well-being. But how to start after so many years of silence? How to break a habit of decades? Choose someone you trust. It could be a child, a sibling, a close friend. Start small. Say something simple like, "I've never talked about this, but I'm worried about my retirement." Or, "I need help organizing my expenses. Can you help me?" Write down your doubts. Put on paper what confuses you about money. It could be about investments, taxes, planning. Don't be ashamed to ask about the basics. Asking is a sign of intelligence, not ignorance. Start writing down your expenses. It doesn't need to be complicated control. Just a simple list of what comes in and what goes out. This will already give you clarity about your situation, and clarity is the first step to control. You'll discover that talking about money doesn't make you greedy. It makes you responsible. It doesn't make you seem self-interested. It makes you seem mature. It doesn't drive away the right people. It only reveals who really cares about your well-being. And there's another benefit you may not have considered. When you learn to talk about money naturally, you become a powerful example for your children and grandchildren. You break a cycle of financial ignorance that may be passing from generation to generation in your family. Imagine your grandchildren growing up in a family where people openly discuss investments, savings, planning, where no one is ashamed to ask about money, where everyone helps each other make better decisions. This could be the most valuable inheritance you leave. Not just money, but wisdom about money. Even if you've never talked about this before, even if you feel uncomfortable at first, you can start today. You can choose to break the silence that has kept you trapped in solitary decisions and unshared fears. Because the truth is this: money is only ugly when it remains in darkness. When brought to light, through honest conversations and responsible planning, it becomes a beautiful tool of care, protection, and generosity. Lie 3. You need to work hard to be rich. Look at your hands. See those marks, those calluses, those lines that tell the story of decades of work. You faithfully believe that these hands were your only tool for prosperity. That every drop of sweat, every overtime hour, every sacrificed weekend was an investment in your financial future. And now, after 30, 40, maybe 50 years of hard work, you wonder, where is the wealth they promised me? Where is the security I should have conquered with so much effort? Why do I still wake up worried about money after a lifetime of dedication? The answer is painful, but liberating. They sold you a lie. They made you believe that hard work is synonymous with enrichment, when in reality hard work without direction is just an organized form of exhaustion. You were taught that there's a simple formula. More hours worked equals more money in the bank. More sweat equals more security. More sacrifice equals more prosperity. And you followed this formula with the discipline of a soldier, the faith of a believer, the hope of one who plants today to harvest tomorrow. But the world changed while you had your head down, working, and no one warned you. Imagine two men digging wells. The first wakes up before sunrise, grabs his shovel, and digs with brute force all day. His hands bleed, his back aches, his body wears out, but he doesn't stop. After all, he was taught that hard work leads to success. The second man also wants to dig a well, but before starting, he studies the terrain. He talks to others who have already dug wells. He invests in better tools. He learns more efficient techniques. And he discovers that there's a machine that can do in 1 hour what would take him a month to do with a shovel. Which of the two ends up with more wells dug? Which of the two has more water at the end of the day? Which of the two better preserves his health and can still teach others to dig wells too? You were the first man, and there's no shame in that. You did what you knew, with the information you had. But now you need to understand that the world rewards not those who work hardest, but those who work smartest. During my reign, I had the opportunity to observe thousands of people. I saw peasants who worked from morning to night and could barely feed their families. I also saw merchants who worked a few hours a day and accumulated immense wealth. The difference wasn't in the amount of effort, but in the quality of decisions. True wealth comes from understanding how money works, not from working until exhaustion. It comes from making intelligent choices with the resources you have, not just producing more resources with brute force. It comes from thinking like a strategist, not just like an executor. But maybe you're thinking, Solomon, it's too late for me. I've already spent my energy. I'm already tired. I'm too old to change strategy. And that's where you're wrong again. Even now, even at your age, even with the experience you have, it's still possible to adjust course. I'm not talking about starting a new career or working more hours. I'm talking about working better with what you already have. Start by looking at your expenses. How many times do you pay for things you don't use, don't need, or could get for a better price? This is smart work, making your money stretch further without earning a cent more. Look at your knowledge. You have decades of experience in some area. Is there a way to transform that knowledge into extra income? It could be teaching, consulting, or simply helping others avoid the mistakes you made. Look at your family. Instead of just leaving money as inheritance, how about leaving wisdom, teaching your children and grandchildren not to repeat the cycle of hard work without direction, showing them that there are smarter paths to prosperity? The truth no one told you is this: your hard work experience wasn't useless. It gave you discipline, persistence, practical knowledge. Now you just need to direct these qualities more strategically. You don't need to work more. You need to think better. You don't need more physical energy. You need more financial wisdom. You don't need more hours in the day. You need better choices with the hours you have. And when you finally understand this, when you stop trading time for money and start making money work for you, something magical happens. You discover that it's possible to prosper without killing yourself with work, that it's possible to have security without sacrificing health, that it's possible to leave an inheritance without living in poverty. Your hands can rest now. Your mind can take command. Because true wealth was never built just with hard work, but with smart work, wise decisions, and clear direction. And you, who proved you have the discipline to work hard, can now prove you have the wisdom to work intelligently. Lie 4. People with money live showing off. Do you know this feeling? That silent fear that if you improve your life, people will think you've gotten stuck up. That if you buy something better, change cars or renovate the house, the neighbors will whisper that you forgot where you came from. This fear paralyzes you. It makes you hide small achievements, minimize improvements, and even reject opportunities to grow because you're terrified of being seen as someone who thinks they're better than others. You were taught that people with money live showing off, that prospering automatically transforms humble people into arrogant ones. That wealth corrupts character and makes people lose their simplicity and consideration for others. But let me tell you something I discovered by observing thousands of people during my reign. This is one of the cruelest lies that can be planted in your mind. Because it not only prevents you from prospering, it makes you fear your own prosperity. The truth is exactly the opposite of what you were taught. Truly rich people, those who built lasting and meaningful wealth, are generally the most discreet you can find. They don't need to prove anything to anyone because their security doesn't come from external approval, but from internal stability. Think of a tree loaded with ripe fruit. It doesn't need to shake its branches to show it has fruit. Abundance is silent, natural, obvious to those who have eyes to see. A tree with few fruits makes noise with any wind, wanting to draw attention to the few achievements it has. I knew a farmer who owned vast lands and numerous herds. When you met him in town, he wore simple clothes, greeted everyone kindly, and never mentioned his possessions. Not out of false modesty, but because his wealth was a work tool, not a trophy of vanity. I also knew a young merchant who had just gotten some money for the first time in his life. He couldn't go a day without mentioning his business, showing his purchases, or hinting at how much he was earning. His showing off was the desperate cry of someone who still wasn't sure if prosperity was real or temporary. Showing off is not a sign of wealth. It's a sign of insecurity. It's the desperate attempt to fill an internal void with external validation. Those who truly have don't need to show they have. But maybe you're thinking, then why do I see so many rich people showing off? And there's another mistake. The people you see showing off are usually not truly rich. They're indebted people trying to look rich, or people with some money trying to compensate for other deficiencies with material exhibition. The truly prosperous use money as a tool, not as an ornament. They use it to create comfort, not to create envy. They use it to build security, not to build image. When you understand this, something liberating happens in your mind. You realize you can improve your life while maintaining your essence. You can buy better things without becoming a worse person. You can prosper without losing your humility or your connection to your origins. True wealth gives you freedom to be more yourself, not to become someone else. It allows you to help more, not help less. It enables you to be more generous, not more selfish. Imagine you finally decide to improve your house, change your old car, or invest in your health with better treatments. You can do all this with discretion, with purpose, with wisdom. You can improve your quality of life without advertising it. And if someone notices and comments, if someone insinuates that you've changed or gotten stuck up, remember that these criticisms usually come from people who prefer you to stay where you are, so they feel better about where they are. Don't allow fear of others' judgment to steal your dignity of living better. Don't allow envy disguised as morality to prevent you from using your resources to have more health, more comfort, more security. You can prosper while maintaining your values. You can get rich while maintaining your simplicity. You can have more money and continue being the same good person you always were, just now with more tools to do good. Showing off is a choice, not an automatic consequence of wealth. You can choose to use your money with wisdom, discretion, and purpose. You can choose to improve your life without needing to prove anything to anyone. And when you make this choice, when you use prosperity as a tool of dignity instead of a trophy of vanity, you discover something wonderful. The right people respect your achievement, and the wrong people reveal their character through their criticisms. Prosper without fear, improve without guilt, grow without shame. Because true wealth doesn't shout, doesn't show off, doesn't exhibit itself. It simply is, and silently transforms the life of those who possess it and everyone around them. Lie 5. It's too late to learn or improve. How many times have you said these words? At my age, it's no longer worth it. How many times have you used your age as an excuse not to try something new, not to learn a different skill, not to seek an improvement opportunity? You look in the mirror and see wrinkles, gray hair, a body that no longer has the energy it once had. And you conclude that your life is already defined, that there's no more room for growth, that any change now would be wasted time or wasted energy. This is perhaps the cruelest lie they can plant in your mind, the lie of the age limit, the idea that there's an expiration date for dreams, learning, and transformation. But I need to tell you something that can completely change your perspective on what's still possible in your life. Age is not the end of possibilities. It's the beginning of applied wisdom. You're not late in life. You're finally arriving at the moment when you have enough experience to make better decisions. During my years as king, I had the opportunity to observe people of all ages, and I discovered something fascinating. Some of the most impressive transformations I witnessed happened precisely with people who had already lived much. Not because they had more energy, but because they had more clarity about what really mattered. I knew a 65-year-old merchant who had spent his entire life selling grain. When he finally decided to learn about spices, he discovered that his knowledge about grain gave him a unique advantage for understanding seasonings. In a few years, he built one of the most prosperous businesses in the region, not despite his age, but because of it. Your experience is not a weight that limits you. It's a treasure that differentiates you. You're not starting from zero like a young person. You're starting with decades of knowledge, contacts, credibility, and perspective that no young person possesses. Think about it. You've already made many mistakes throughout your life. That's your greatest advantage now. You know how to recognize traps that a young person would fall into with their eyes closed. You have discernment that only comes with experience. You've developed intuition about people and situations that is precious. But maybe you're thinking, Solomon, but I no longer have energy for big changes. I can't work like a young person anymore. And who said you need to? The world isn't asking you to go back to being 20. It's asking you to use the 50, 60, 70 years you have with wisdom. Small changes at your age have gigantic impact. When a young person learns something new, they can use that knowledge for decades. When you learn something new, you can immediately apply all your life experience to maximize results. Let me give you practical examples of what's still possible to learn and apply. You can learn to better organize your finances. You don't need to become an investment specialist, but you can learn the basics about how to make your money work better. This could mean hundreds or thousands of dollars more per month. You can learn to identify and avoid scams. With the right information, you can protect not just your money, but also help others your age protect themselves. You can learn to use basic technology to make your life easier. You don't need to become an expert, but you can learn enough to pay bills online, talk to distant family members, or even find ways to generate extra income. You can learn about your rights as an older person, which benefits you can apply for, which discounts you can get, how to protect yourself legally. But beyond practical knowledge, there's something even more powerful that happens when you decide it's never too late to learn. You become a living example that life doesn't end at 50, 60, or 70. Your children and grandchildren are watching. When you show you're still willing to grow, adapt, improve, you teach them that aging is not synonymous with stagnation. You break cycles of conformity that may be passing from generation to generation. Imagine the pride your grandchildren will feel when they know that you, even at your age, decided to learn something new. Imagine the inspiration you can give to others your age, who also believe the lie that it's too late. And there's another benefit you may not have considered. Learning keeps your mind active and healthy. Every new skill you develop, every new knowledge you acquire, is like exercise for your brain. It's a way to age with mental dignity, not just physical. Start small. Choose one thing you've always wanted to understand better. It could be something related to money, health, family, or any subject that sparks your curiosity. Dedicate a few minutes a day to studying it. Ask questions. Don't be ashamed to admit you don't know something. Asking is a sign of intelligence and humility, qualities that become even more noble with age. Seek help. Ask a child, grandchild, or friend to teach you something they know. This not only helps you learn, but strengthens relationships and shows that you value knowledge, regardless of where it comes from. The truth is this: you're not late in life. You're exactly where you need to be to make the most significant and lasting changes you've ever made. Because now you have something you didn't have before: the wisdom to choose what's really worth learning. It's never too late to be a better version of who you already are. It's never too late to use your experience more intelligently. It's never too late to prove that age is just a number and wisdom has no expiration date. Lie 6. Saving money is a sign of greed. Do you feel that tightness in your chest every time you think about saving money for yourself? That guilt that whispers in your ear that you're being selfish by not sharing everything you have? That voice that accuses you of greed whenever you consider creating a reserve for emergencies? You were taught that saving money is a sign of a hard heart, that good people share everything they have, that having a reserve is a sign of distrust in God, in family, in life. And because of this, you spent years giving everything you had, always staying in the red, always vulnerable, always dependent on others' goodwill. This mentality didn't make you a better person. It made you a more fragile person. Let me tell you a truth that may sound harsh at first, but will liberate you. Saving money is not a sign of greed. It's a sign of wisdom, responsibility, and self-love. Imagine a family man who saves nothing for emergencies. He shares everything he earns, helps everyone who asks, denies nothing to anyone. Seems noble, doesn't it? But when his wife gets sick and needs expensive treatment, he can't pay. When he loses his job and needs to support the family for a few months, he has no reserve. When an opportunity to invest in something that could improve everyone's life arises, he has no resources. Now tell me, who really suffers from this uncontrolled generosity? The family he wanted to protect, the people who depend on him, he himself, who becomes a burden to others in times of crisis. The truth is that having no reserve is not generosity. It's irresponsibility. It's negligence disguised as virtue. During my reign, I learned a precious lesson by observing ants. They work tirelessly in summer, storing food for winter. No one calls ants greedy. Everyone recognizes that they are wise, provident, responsible. Why should humans be different? Why should you feel guilty for doing what even the smallest insects do instinctively, prepare for difficult times? Saving money is an act of love. It's love for yourself because it ensures you won't become a burden to others. It's love for your family because it creates a safety net for difficult moments. It's love for the people you want to help because only those who have reserves can help consistently and durably. Think about it. Have you ever needed to borrow money from someone in an emergency? Do you remember the embarrassment, the anguish, the feeling of helplessness? Do you remember how you felt small, dependent, vulnerable? Saving money is a way to ensure you never go through that again. And there's another side of the coin that no one told you. When you have a reserve, your generosity becomes more intelligent and more effective. Instead of giving everything you have impulsively, you can help in a planned, consistent, and truly useful way. I knew a merchant who always saved part of what he earned. Many criticized him, saying he was miserly. But when a plague destroyed the region's crops and many families went hungry, he was the only one who could help significantly and durably. His miserliness proved to be the wisdom that saved lives. The ideal is not to save out of fear, but to save out of wisdom, not to accumulate out of greed, but to reserve out of prudence, not to withhold out of selfishness, but to preserve out of love. How can you start building a reserve without feeling guilty? First, change your perspective. See your reserve not as money you're taking from others, but as a tool that allows you to help better when necessary. Start small. Even if it's just a few dollars a month, start saving something. The important thing is not the amount, it's creating the habit and breaking the mentality of spending everything that comes in. Define a purpose for your reserve. It could be for medical emergencies, to help children in difficulties, to not depend on anyone in old age. When you have a clear purpose, it's easier to resist the temptation to spend everything. Learn the difference between need and request. Not every request for help is a real need. Not every difficulty of others is your responsibility to solve. You can be compassionate without being irresponsible with your own finances. And remember, you can't give what you don't have. If you're always without reserves, you're always limited in your ability to help. But if you have a solid foundation, you can be generous consistently and impactfully. Having a reserve also gives you something precious: freedom. Freedom to say no when necessary. Freedom to make decisions based on what's right, not on what's financially possible at the moment. Freedom to age with dignity, without depending on others' charity. Imagine what your life would be like if you knew you had resources saved for any emergency. How you would sleep better knowing you're prepared for the unexpected. How you would feel more confident, knowing you can take care of yourself and still help others when they really need it. This tranquility is not luxury, it's necessity. It's a right you have to live without constant fear of the future. The truth is simple. Saving money wisely doesn't make you a worse person. It makes you more prepared to be good when it really matters. It transforms you from someone who needs help into someone who can offer help. And at the end of life, when you look back, you won't regret having been prudent. You'll be proud of having been responsible enough to protect yourself and those you love. Now you know the 6 invisible chains that kept you trapped in a financial life smaller than you deserved. Each lie we unmasked today was a shackle on your wrists, preventing you from achieving the prosperity that was always rightfully yours. But knowing the chains is just the first step. Breaking these chains is what transforms knowledge into freedom, information into transformation, awakening into real prosperity. Imagine for a moment what your life will be like from now on. Imagine waking up without that suffocating guilt whenever you think about money. Imagine talking about your finances naturally and wisely. Imagine making decisions based on strategy, not just effort. Imagine prospering with discretion and purpose. Imagine learning and growing regardless of your age. Imagine saving and investing with tranquility, knowing you're being prudent, not greedy. This is not fantasy. It's your new reality, starting now. You've carried these lies for too long. They stole years of your prosperity, months of your peace, days of your financial dignity. But every day you live with this new consciousness is a day reclaimed. Every decision you make based on truth, not lies, is a victory over decades of limiting conditioning. If you feel this message reached you at the right time, if something inside your chest moved during these revelations, then you're ready for the complete journey of financial liberation. The chains have already been identified. Now it's time to break each one of them and take control of the prosperity that was always your destiny.